Well, this is what's left of Legend Sports Bar and Grill here behind me. Take a look, and it's basically just a big pile of rubble and debris.
Take a look at this sidewalk here along Velp Avenue, and you can see just how icy it is. You can see how easily my feet move back and forth apart. Well, we are finally learning some answers and just heard from police a short time ago that what happened earlier this morning that triggered this huge police response that you can actually see here behind me where there is a staging area is that earlier this morning a staff member inside of Kiel High School thought that they heard gunshots coming near the south side of the building. And we all know love for the Packers stretches far beyond Green Bay. In fact, at training camp, it's not uncommon to see fans coming from thousands of miles away. A captain with the Shawano County Sheriff's Office told me that they found Diane Pickett's body yesterday afternoon near the debris and the home, which is just behind me here along this driveway. Look at this huge snowdrift. This is the way the snow has just kind of piled up here on what appears to be some bushes right here. And you can see just how tall it is. I'm about 5'7", and so I can just almost reach the top of it on my tiptoes. Police are holding a press conference later this morning where we expect to get some answers. This is what we do know. 12-year-old Justin Johnson was crossing this intersection here at Crooks Avenue and 2nd Street when a bus turned the corner and hit him. Well, right now there's a cashier in a booth like this one until about 6 o'clock in the evening, but after 6 the cashier leaves and the gates go up. Passengers finally get their luggage early this morning after hours of waiting.
A very, very long travel, and we just want to be home.
It was a nightmarish trip for these passengers trying to get to Minneapolis after their plane slid off the runway.
It was a pretty scary experience, I'd say, but they turned the lights on and just made sure everyone was okay after.
I don't know what we're going to slide into, not being familiar with the area or anything.
The United Flight 878 took off in Houston, Texas. It made one attempt to land at the Minneapolis airport.
They said it was too icy that they couldn't land us there.
So they ended up in Madison before trying again to land in Minneapolis, but the same thing happened, so the flight was diverted to Green Bay.
We were slowing down, but then you could feel kind of the brakes not have any more traction.
The airport's director says that the FAA is investigating what exactly caused this 737 to slide off the runway, landing in this field here. We do know obviously that it was icy. The director of the airport says that crews were treating the runways overnight.
We can't use salt on runways because it's corrosive, and so we use mostly sand to provide grit, and there are some other chemicals that we can use that are approved by the Federal Aviation Administration.
Eventually, the passengers were able to either take a bus to Minneapolis or a flight later in the day. United Airlines is responsible for moving the plane. In Green Bay, Kristen Allen, Action 2 News. That's right. There are still some police here this morning as well. You can see behind me there is a police squad car here with lights on blocking this street. And if you take a look further down the street, you can see there is another squad car with police tape up. And there has been a decent amount of activity here this morning as well. We've seen some other police cars come in and out of this area. Now, we do know that one of the 4 people shot and killed was a police officer with the D.C. Everest Metropolitan Police Department, but we don't know where in this incident he was killed. Police say this started as a domestic incident, and police aren't saying much about the shooter, his motives, or his victims, but we do expect to learn more today during a press conference. Yesterday afternoon, officers were called to a bank in Rothschild just before 1 o'clock in the afternoon, then to a law office in Schofield soon after, and finally to this apartment building in Weston. There were reports of shots being fired at all 3 of those locations. A standoff at the apartment building between the suspect and police then lasted for several hours before the suspect was taken into custody. During that time, Everest area schools were placed on lockdown as a precaution, and streets around the shooting locations were closed off. They have since been reopened, but some families in the area were displaced and are now being helped by the Red Cross. When speaking to the media, law officials were visibly upset, saying they're not the only ones affected by this tragedy.
And I would like to basically send all my thoughts and ask everybody listening, thoughts and prayers to all the victims and their families. Keep them in your prayers and be with our officers.
These events affect more than just the people involved. They really affect entire communities. And with that, and because of that, there's more than 100 law enforcement officers in the field right now from all the agencies the chief mentioned working hard on several different crime scenes.
The Wisconsin Department of Criminal Investigation is now handling this, and as we said, we do expect to learn more about this today during a press conference, but so far a time for that has not been released. We will be there, though, and be bringing you the latest developments as soon as they unfold. Reporting live in Weston, Kristen Allen, Action 2 News. Berkeley Road is now back open this morning. You can see an unmarked car from the Brown County Sheriff's Office watching over the home here behind me that Nicole Vanderheiden and Douglas Dietrich shared. Investigators arrived back here to this neighborhood around 5:30 last night. There was a report of blood found in front of another home nearby. Now that happened at just about the same time that investigators positively identified the victim as Nicole Vanderheiden. Investigators moved quickly, gathering evidence and interviewing neighbors. Dietrich was arrested at his parents' house. He initially did make some statements to investigators before requesting a lawyer. The scene around his home was active overnight as police searched yards for more clues and made sure neighbors were aware of what was happening.
We obviously are doing neighborhood canvassing. We want to see if anybody saw anything during this time process. So we have to talk to everybody. You try and get as much information as early as possible after you discover that a homicide had occurred. This is not out of the norm to bring as many people.
Investigators say the murder likely happened early Saturday morning. Vanderheiden's body was found just hours later. Police haven't said how she was killed or why. They say they believe this was an isolated incident between the couple, but officers are looking into whether or not Dietrich had any help. Vanderheiden was a mother of 3. She and Dietrich had 1 child together. No court date has been set, but we'll be following this story and bring you the latest developments. Reporting live in Ledgeview, Kristen Allen, Action 2 News.